Hello, and welcome to a podcast from the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. This is Ann DeSantis, joined by my co-host, Caroline Godin. Caroline, thank you so much for joining us, as always.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yes. And this is, of course, our series, 12 Ways to Heal After a Crisis. And our topic for this one is reading good spiritual books. It's so important when you have gone through a crisis, when you've gone through something that has brought you to kind of that low level of believing in yourself, believing in God, sticking with your faith. I mean, all of these things. So I think that spiritual books are really important. Spiritual reading, daily spiritual reading. Caroline, as we always do, just talk for a couple minutes about your ministry.
Sure. Well, my ministry or the other
yourself.
Stuff. So I'm a publicist for First Responder Coaching. It is a first responder life coaching organization. We are comprised of first responders, former first responders, and first responder family members. How many times can I say first responder in a row? It's a lot. So what we do is we do life coaching for first responders and their family members, and we provide that service specific to them. We also have Two Roads coaching because it has become popular and people have enjoyed coaching as a resource as opposed to therapy, or in addition to therapy, because sometimes you still need therapy. And it has been wonderful. So that could be a whole different topic, though. So I won't get into that, but you can check us out at firstrespondercoaching.org. That's 1ST, respondercoaching.org. I am also a catechist and a Catholic writer with Catholic 365, Epic Pew, and Catholic Mom. And I am a mom of 3.
That's right. It's always good to just give our new viewers, our new listeners, a little information on you. And of course, we're the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation at nonnatus.org. I'm executive director. And this topic, again, is 12 ways to heal after a crisis. Now, what are those crises? I mean, there's such a wide range of what it could be. Something to do with divorce, separation, relationship issues, loss of a loved one, health crisis, job loss. I mean, the list goes on, right? There's so many things that affect individuals and families these days. So when we're talking about spiritual reading, yes, we're talking about books, but we're also talking about making it a daily habit to read something spiritual. I mean in the Catholic realm, right? Where there's a lot of spiritual things out there, but
yeah, you be careful when you use the word spiritual. So it can mean so many different things to the world now.
We'll say in Catholic spirituality, right?
Yes. Faith-wise.
Faith. Now, I know, Caroline, that you're a person that just like me, I receive a lot of like those daily emails from different sources, different nonprofits, authors, speakers, whoever they are. Why don't you talk about a few that you might like to subscribe to, and I can too, and then we can really talk about books too, and the importance of reading good spiritual books.
Yeah. So I know we've talked about prayers and email, daily prayers like the Pray More novenas and things like that before. But aside from the daily prayers that you might get in your inbox, spiritual reading, I can off the top of my head name a few things to look out for. So the Grace Force, if you've ever heard of the Grace Force, they are a great resource for spiritual reading and information. And you can also listen to, now his name is escaping me, but Dr. David Anders has great books out there for spiritual reading or faith-filled reading. Ascension Press has loads of material out there. But if you're going to start your reading journey in a faith-filled way, the first book you really need to pick up is the book, the Bible. Bible means book. And so that should be where you start. Start with the Bible. Start reading the Gospels. That would be the number one place to start. And then as a Catholic, in addition, pick up the Catechism. The Catechism, if you don't have a physical copy, it's online. You can go to the USCCB, that's the U.S. Catholic Bishops, usccb.org, and the Catechism is right there. Go to the top menu, you can find the Catechism, and it'll answer your questions. Type something in, and that is part of faith-filled spiritual reading. So that's a great resource.
I couldn't agree more. And I think as Catholics, years and years ago, I believe, maybe I'm going to say prior to Vatican II, and maybe even in the 70s a little bit, I think Bible reading started to come back, because before we were always encouraged to have a priest be with you, be present when you read the Bible, to make sure that you're not misinterpreting anything. So, but things have changed because there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of biblical commentaries. There's a lot of Bibles, Catholic Bibles, that actually have a lot of commentary right there in them.
Mm-hmm.
I have several at home. I know the first Bible I started reading, though, when I really became more interested in my Catholic faith, was just simply that New American Bible, which is,
Yes.
it's like that red Bible that you see all the time, like churches have them with a red cover and the white lettering there. That was sort of what I started with. And then, I have several other Bibles here at home, but I would just suggest to you to go to some really good websites, like, Caroline mentioned, like Ascension Press, like even going on Amazon and keying in like Catholic Bibles and looking at the different versions, because Amazon will have a lot of those different publishing companies, and you can read the reviews and everything, and see who also has endorsed those Bibles. That also says a lot.
That's important too, because there are some Catholic Bibles out there, but they may not necessarily be the right one for you. Some people want to put notes. Some people like, certain types of notes in their Bibles. Scott Hahn is the other person I was trying to think of. Scott
Definitely.
Hahn and Bishop Barron,
Yes.
Robert Barron, two other really great authors, speakers, intelligent people that can really teach you about the Catholic faith in a very accessible way.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I would say that you named two of them, and then the third person I would recommend is Father Mike Schmitz, because
yes,
he is, between the three of them, Dr. Hahn, Dr. Scott Hahn, Bishop Barron, and Father Mike Schmitz. I mean, they're like kind of the three big ones, right, in the Catholic Church that most people know about. And I do think you can trust them.
Yes.
So if they're endorsing a Bible or a catechism, that's probably the way to go. Now, Father Mike Schmitz did the Bible in a year.
Yep. And the catechism in a year.
And the catechism in a year. So that would be a wonderful place to start with, spiritual, we'll call it reading, but it would be more of that podcast. But of course, they always have the reading that goes with it. He'll always tell you sort of like what we're basing this podcast on, what readings are they based on. And so I think that's just a wonderful place for all of us to start.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is reading like a daily meditational book, like a prayer book. I mean, I have some of those like very small prayer books. They're Catholic prayer books, where every day there's like a short reading. It could be a Bible verse with like a little meditation. It could be a catechism quote, a quote from a saint. I don't know, Caroline, have you read those before? They're so helpful.
I have a few of those little daily ones. I haven't picked them up recently because I do get a lot of different things in my inbox as well. And sometimes that's faster when I'm clearing emails and I see one of the daily reflections. I believe it's, who is it? It's a group based out of Australia and I can't think of the name of it, but sometimes I'll read the reflection and that'll be my daily,
Is it Parousia Media? Parousia Media?
Dynamic Catholic. That's what it is.
Dynamic Catholic. Yeah.
Dynamic Catholic. So I'll read that because we use that in our catechism for our 10th graders. So for our confirmation class. So,
I forgot to mention Matthew Kelly too. I mean, because he's
Matthew Kelly. Yep.
One of the big A-listers, right? In the Catholic.
Yes. And also I did mention him earlier, Dr. David Anders. He's really great for someone who started out Protestant or is Protestant and is interested in the Catholic faith, because that was his journey. And the more he learned about the Catholic faith, it converted him. So he really is a good promoter of the truth and that from that angle. So he's a good person to listen to or read as well.
Yeah, it's good to get those good authors. I mean, we mentioned a few and some really good websites of, where you can find good books. I mean, Pauline Media, I think, is a great one. Ave Maria Press. as
Oh,
we
yes.
said, Ascension, Loyola Press.
Yep.
There are some of them. I mean, I would do a search, right? Do a search of Catholic publishing companies. And we're naming a few, but I mean, you can also do it yourself and check it out. I mean, I buy a lot of things on Amazon, and you can see the names of the publishers when you go to Amazon and
Mhm.
how many star reviews, if they're 4-star, 5-star reviews, and that gives you an idea of, what you're purchasing and how that book will help you on a daily basis. Now, you who are watching this podcast, you're somebody who's going through something, some kind of crisis. And I do think that there's also some very specialized authors that have written books on, say, depression or anxiety or something to do with divorce or separation or adult children of divorce.
Mhm.
There's different websites. Like, if you are an adult children of divorce, there's 2 ministries that I would recommend that have books that you can check out. They would be Life Giving Wounds is one, and the other one is Joey Pontarelli's ministry. So I've talked about them before on different podcasts. But since you are our audience, the families in crisis, adult children of divorce, and those affected by divorce, it's good to read spiritual books that are kind of geared for your situation too. Caroline, how has reading spiritual books, whether it could be the Bible or the Catechism, but has helped you just on a daily basis?
Well, sometimes when I'm reading something, whether it's a Bible reading or an explanation as something in the Catechism, or it's this book that I'm actually reading currently, Mission Ready Friendship by Jason Simon. It it kind of informs the conscience a little bit. But it informs kind of your thought process on how to look at something and how to deal with a particular issue or how to approach a particular situation. So with for example, Mission Ready Friendship, it's all about how to live your faith and share that with those around you, which is really a scary thought to a lot of people, um, myself included. Sometimes there are some friends that I really shy away from talking about my faith with, and that's something that I'm working on, and I'm coming away from that a little bit. But this particular book is explaining his journey and how one friend drew him in and how he's been working on that, and it reflects back on the gospel and how Jesus instructed his disciples to basically do the same thing, which is how the gospel was spread in the first place. So you know these are the things that you can pick up out of these books. What are you looking to learn? What are you looking to gain in your faith life? There's a book for that. And there's a Catholic book for that will inform you, instruct you in the right way. Go find that book. And if you're reading a page a day, that's okay. Pick at it.
I like that because let's face it, most of us are, in air quotes, I'll say, we're all busy. And so it's finding that time to read and find that time of day that works best for you. Like for me, my best time to do any type of meditating, reading, and even prayer is morning. So when I first wake up in the morning, even before I really get myself together, is taking the time to read those spiritual books, even if it's just a little bit, like we said. And also those emails that come in, from Dynamic Catholic or Bishop Barron or whoever. I mean, yes, I'm reading those as sort of something to meditate on. Another one is Henry Nouwen, who was a priest, died in the late 90s. And he's written a lot of books. His first book that was really like very popular in the 1970s was The Wounded Healer. But he's also a very spiritual person. And every day he has an email too, even though he's passed away, but they still have a foundation that sends out some of his different quotes having to do with the spiritual life. And I think the other thing I want to recommend is this: if you don't have a spiritual directors can also give you an idea of some books that you can read. I know that a lot of the ones that spiritual directors that I've had always recommend to read the Lives of the Saints. And that can be heavy stuff because it's not usually a short book when you're reading a biography,
Mm-hmm.
but it is something that I think it opens up your eyes to what it must have been like for this person in their strive for heroic virtue every day, right? What was it like for that person? And some of the ones that I've read before, of course, like Story of a Soul by Saint Therese of Lisieux, and then The Diary of Saint Faustina, some other ones. I mean, another thing that I've read before, which I still go to, is that Imitation of Christ by Kempis. So I don't know. Did you have any other saints that you like to read about, even if it's not the full book? Sometimes even when you're scrolling on social media, you might see a saint and think, wow, that whets my appetite to want to read more about this saint.
I like a lot of different saints. I have not read like one particular book that was about one particular saint, but I am totally a fan of reading about particular saints. St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine, and St. Ignatius are favorites of mine. St. Gemma, she also had the Stigmata. St. Padre Pio, I'm a big fan of Padre Pio. I just, St. Monica, but there's not a lot written necessarily about St. Monica's life, but, her son is St. Augustine. So she's the patron saint of mothers. So she's one of the saints that I do pray to. So, but any of them, it's really interesting to read about their lives.
It is. It is. Now, another thing that you can do in relation to this entire topic is you can read the Liturgy of the Hours, which is the prayer of the church. So that is spiritual reading. It is. And you can download apps like Laudate. That's spelled Laudatte, I think. But it's a wonderful app because not only does it have a lot of prayers, but there's also like a Bible, there's a catechism on there, and then they have the Liturgy of the Hours prayers. And it could be those, I think there's 6 times a day that you can say the prayers of the church, starting with morning and then mid-morning, noon, mid-afternoon, evening, vespers, and then of course Compline, the prayer before retiring. And priests and religious are required to read those prayers, to say those prayers every day. Now, as lay people, we're not required to, but at the very minimum, we probably would like to do maybe morning and night prayers is a good idea. And that is spiritual reading because you're reading the Psalms, you're reading a little bit of a meditation from maybe a saint or something, and you're also praying too. So I think these are all really good pieces of advice for you who are trying to grow in your spiritual life. And also you who are going through something, whatever that is. That's why you're watching this podcast. And there's so much more than even what we're discussing, but we do want to make it part of the series, right? Spiritual reading is so important. It's such an important thing. And I would say, support your Catholic authors by purchasing their books. On my podcast, not this one, but I have another one. It's called Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis. Some of you who are watching have heard of that before. It's I have my own personal YouTube channel too, where I interview people of faith, and I've interviewed so many authors. So I just want to make a shout out that if you want to learn about some of those authors, I just go to my YouTube channel at Anne DeSantis, and you'll see. I've done over 150 podcasts, and I would say 100 of those are authors. So, I have to make a shout out to a lot of those wonderful people who have done such a great job with their writing, and also for all age categories too. There's great books for young people. One of the websites is called, I think it's CatholicTeenBooks.com. Now I could be wrong on that one, but Google it. Just Google it, because there's great books there for younger people. And then of course there's periodicals and magazines that are also geared for people that are above the age of 55 too. So there's something for everybody out there as well. Why don't we talk just a little bit too about publications that have the daily mass readings, because a lot of times in those magazines, they also have meditations too, spiritual reading. One of them is The Word Among Us. Another one is the Magnificat. Another one is Give Us This Day. And there's other ones too. Caroline, do you have a favorite of those that you read?
The Magnificat is very good. That's the one that comes to mind.
Yes. Yeah. And some of them are online too. They have, like, you can subscribe to them, but then there's also like an app that you get too, so that if you don't want to carry around the magazine that you get in the mail, the monthly magazine, you can also just go on your phone and do it on the app too.
Yep.
They're the primary ones that I know of, to Give Us This Day, Magnificat, and The Word Among Us, but there's a lot of other ones too. And I do want to mention one daily podcast that I listen to, which is, it's not spiritual reading, but honestly, it's kind of like that. It's called the God Minute, and it's by the Vincentian Religious Order. So I just want to recommend that to all of you. They also have a daily email that goes out, so you can subscribe. But just key into your browser the God Minute. It really is wonderful. It's not only a 1-minute podcast. I mean, they say the God Minute, but it's like 10 minutes a day. But I definitely think you'll like that. And there's recommended reading there too. But that's something that I do every day. And I also go to the United States Conference of Bishops has a YouTube channel that has a 2-minute video for the mass readings every day. Again, it's not spiritual reading, but it's they do give you that recommended reading, by reading the scriptures of the day. And you just need to look that up on YouTube. And that's a couple things that I do to kind of stay in line. But did you have any other anything else that you want to recommend?
Just a suggestion. You're living this busy life. I find very little time that I can actually crack open a book and read. I find most often that the only time I have for that is when I'm picking up a kid from something and I'm sitting in the car waiting for them to come out of the building. And that's when I can open a book, and I might get 1 page. I might get 10 pages. It may not be much, but that's for me what I can do. And if you feel like you don't have time to even do that, books are available to be read to you. We can do that now. We have the technology. So have an ebook, or have it on audio and turn it on your phone. Have headphones on and cook dinner while you're listening to this book, or any of those things. Like we mentioned, the Bible in a year and the Catechism in a year. It's reading. He's reading the Bible and then he's explaining it. So it's twofold. You're getting the reading, but you're also getting the explanation from a priest, and it's really, really helpful. So this counts for spiritual reading. But yeah, you can get it on audio and can listen. There is something to be said about being able to have a physical book in your hands and read the words with your own eyeballs, but you got to go from where you're at. It's your life. You got to start with where your life is at. And if that means that you're going to turn it on and listen to it audibly from your phone, sitting in the car or cooking dinner or folding laundry, whatever, go from where you can.
Oh, what good advice. And one more thing, I just had to mention this too, is if you don't have the Audible app, that's something that I have. It's to get books on tape. And yes, there is a fee. There's like a yearly fee. But if you can afford to get it, it is so wonderful to be able to like read these books, like when you're doing other things. I mean, I do it when I'm driving. I listen to it when I'm driving to daily mass every day back and forth. When I'm cleaning the house, I wear like a Bluetooth and I'm listening to books when I'm doing things. So, it is another way that you can do that. And you name it. I mean, just about I would say not every book, but a lot of books that you can think of, you can listen to on Audible. So I'm a little bit of a commercial there for them, but and for these other good authors that are out there. But Caroline, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, as always.
Yeah, it was great.
And thank you all. Now, keep in mind again that this podcast is the last Thursday of every month on our Philly Nonnatus YouTube channel at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But you can, watch them at any time, or listen if you're listening to this on an audio podcast. And we will see you all next month. God bless.